Good morning. I want to talk a little bit about intentionality. I was just with some relatives over the holidays, and it was a great time, and it was so fun to see everybody. And it was actually, I ran into a friend that I hadn't seen for about 40 years, and we got to catch up, and it was so much fun. And it's interesting to watch people's lives and to get these like snapshots. There are people, I saw people that I only see like once a year and whatnot. And I've been thinking a lot about intentionality, which seems like a weird segue. But watching the way people live their lives is a really interesting snapshot into how intentional they are. Maybe that's backwards. Maybe it's how intentional or non-intentional they are is a snapshot into how they live their lives. I'm not sure. Sort of thinking this through as I'm talking, but it's something about it's really important to me, and I'm gonna talk it through until I sort of sort it out, hopefully, and you get to go along for the ride. But here's what I know to be true, and every once in a while, I'll challenge somebody on this. I'll say, like, name somebody. Either somebody famous or somebody that that is a household name, or maybe somebody personally who's developed a level of mastery in something, and they've done so accidentally, right? And everybody will go, oh, I know somebody, and it's like, great, tell me about that person. And it's like that person who just walked in and sat down at a piano and could play it, or picked up a football and threw it perfectly the first time. And it's like, great, how do we repeat that? And the answer is, well, we don't. I say, well, that's not much of a plan for the rest of it, is it? Right? Like, and sure, those people exist. I guess they do. The real mastery, in my experience, comes from, it's like the overnight wonder. Who came out? Where did this person come from? They burst onto the scene magically. And it's like, yeah, but they've been practicing guitar every day for 20 years, and they've been playing dive bars for the past 12, and they've been living on like scraps for a decade, right? And now they're an overnight sensation based on 20 years of really diligent, intentional, careful, thoughtful work and practice. And so it's like intentionality is so important, I think. And it's this undercurrent of mastery and success and wellness, I think. And so it's like, how do we develop, say, you pick any life domain, like what's the thing in your life that's that's problematic, or maybe there's something that you're like, yeah, I got this down. Maybe you've got a great relationship, or you're super fit, or you've got the money thing really figured out. I challenge you to rewind and say, well, where did that come from? And I almost guarantee it that in the areas in your life where you're successful, or whatever that means, like I don't even know what that word means, but in those areas, there's an intentionality there. There's time and attention at some level to those that isn't spent on the others. I used to facilitate some groups on like financial wellness, basically, and one of the things that was almost 100% common was we have a conversation with the person or the couple at the beginning, and I would we'd go over the numbers, like what's your income, what's your debt, how much debt do you have, what's your net worth, how many credit cards do you have, like those sorts of things. And almost nobody knew. I mean, there's occasionally somebody that had taken the time to do the calculations, but almost nobody knew the answer to those types of questions. They didn't know the numbers. They had their head buried in the sand. And listen, that's not a judgment, right? Because I went through this journey years ago where the American Express bill would come, and I had no idea what I was going to owe, because there was no intentionality. There was no intentionality to the way I spent money, saved money, earned money, and that was right. Those things kind of go together. But I would do these classes, and I would work with these people, these individuals, these couples, and they wouldn't have any idea what the numbers. No idea, right? There was no intentionality to how they dealt with money, and their head was in the sand because looking was just too dang scary. I get it, absolutely get it. But once we started looking at the numbers, one of the things that I noticed was they were always wrong what they thought their financial situation was, in one direction or the other. You have sort of a group of people who would say, "Oh my gosh, I am an absolute train wreck. It's a disaster. Or it's the end of times, the end of the world." And we look at the numbers and they go, "Oh, okay, it's not great, but it's not nearly as bad as I." Where you have the other camp of people who are like, "Oh, it's not that bad," and we start looking and they go, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea. I had 14 credit cards. I had no idea." Right? So and that's the problem. Lack of intentionality is we don't know where we're starting from. Right? We don't know how good we are or how bad we are. And when we start from a place of I don't really know what it is, that's what's scary. Because we don't know how far we have to go when we don't know where we're starting from, right? So I think about the people in my life who either like people that I know or the people that I respect, like look at the super famous people like the Kobe Bryants of the world or the Tiger Woods of the world, or the if you go back a generation, the Larry Birds, and I'm trying to think of a more modern example for younger folks, but I'm just old, so I don't know. But yeah, these guys were famous for having some God-given talent, but then focusing it on the, like narrowly, like laser focusing their energy, their time and attention, meaning intentionality, on developing a specific skill. Kobe Bryant was famous for always being the first one in the gym in the morning, in the weight room in the morning, and always the last one on the basketball court at the end of the practice day. Larry Bird was famous for keeping the lights on in the garden to shoot free throws hours after practice was over, right? Tiger Woods, famous for being the first one on the driving range in the morning, right? And the last one to leave in the evening. Like this real intentional, like strong work ethic. And the same is true for musicians. The same is true for parents, right? I'm not talking about becoming a great athlete. What I'm talking about is becoming great at something that's important to you. Maybe becoming a parent, maybe becoming the best parent you could possibly be is important to you. And this is funny, I say that because everybody goes, yeah, I want to be a great parent. But then it's like, well, how intentional are you being at being a parent, right? And no judgment here, right? Let's not put our head in the sand. Like, let's look at it. What would our kids say? Now, granted, our kids, depending on their age and whatnot, who knows what they'll say. But one of the things that I find to be really helpful when it comes to parenting is, parent today for the relationship that you want in 5 or 10 years with that particular kid, right? And we parent different kids differently because they have different needs. They're different humans. So if we want to become the best parent in the world, what time and attention are we putting into that? What intentionality? In what way are we being careful about how we parent? I don't mean careful in terms of not taking risks, because sometimes taking risks is exactly what needs to happen. Sometimes it's like, I'm taking the kid out of school on Friday and we're going to go do something fun. We're going to blow off work, blow off school, play hooky for the whole day and go do something fun. I'm not saying you should do that, but it could be something kind of nutty like that. That's what's needed in the relationship. Like, how much time do you spend learning about parenting? How much time do you spend learning about child psychology? How much time do you spend learning about attachment, about systems, about how to parent, about techniques, right? No judgment if you don't do that, but that's what great parents do. Think about the people that you know who are really, really great parents. They do work on parenting. They also do work on themselves, right? We take ourselves into every situation we're in. We take ourselves into our financial lives. We take ourselves into our relationships. We take ourselves into our parenting, right? But the intentionality has to be there in order to develop mastery. That to which we devote time and attention grows, right? And if we take it even further, if we're really being intentional, intentionality can be practiced, standing alone, but it really gets powerful when it's practiced in a group. It gets really powerful when it's practiced and there's accountability and there's feedback and there's expert responses, something like that. There's a saying that I love. It goes like this. And I'm not going to remember who said it. I'm not even probably going to say it correctly, but that goes like this: that which is measured improves. That which is measured and reported improves exponentially. There was a study from back in the day when Weight Watchers was a thing, and it was sort of one of the most whatever your thoughts are of Weight Watchers, and it's different now in the digital age and whatnot. And I've got opinions about it, but sort of objectively, it was one of the more successful weight loss brands ever. Right, been around for a long time, helped a lot of people. And they did a study, and what they found, like the question was, what's the variable that determines success or lack of success? And it came down to this: it wasn't eating styles, it wasn't the time of day people eat, it really wasn't even exactly directly how much people ate. Obviously, that was a factor, and it wasn't like how they broke up their macronutrients or like any of that stuff. Like, a lot of people would guess those things. The variable that determined success or lack of success, and that define that however you want to. It's like, call it meeting your whatever they call it, your target weight and maintaining it for a year. Let's call it that. I don't think that's really how the study went, but like just to answer the question that will come up for people. The variable that determined success or lack of success was one thing, and one thing clearly. Those people who were successful, they logged their food religiously. They wrote down what they ate, and they were accurate about it. They didn't fudge. They didn't make it look good. And they did it regularly, week in and week out. And then they came to meetings and shared about that. Right? That accountability, right? This is why 12-step programs work. It's intentionality. I'm not going to drink today. I'm not going to smoke today. I'm not going to do whatever today. And I'm going to come to a group and I'm going to get support from other people who are doing the same thing. And I'm going to share with them that I was successful today or this week, right? That's the level of intentionality that's sort of like, life-threatening, right? The weight too. A lot of people will end up in something like Weight Watchers because their health is suffering because of the extra weight they're carrying, right? So we can look to Weight Watchers, we can look to 12-step programs, we can look to group support programs, we can look to veteran support groups, we can look to PTSD support groups, we can look to a lot of groups like that and learn a lot about accountability and about intentionality. Usually those groups have one focus. Like, this is all we're just talking about, sugar addiction here, or we're just talking about drug addiction, or we're just talking about our experience in combat. Whatever it is, they're at a singleness of like focus, which allows them to be intentional about what they do. We come here at this place at a certain time on a certain day. We're here for a certain number of minutes. We speak in a certain way. We share in a certain way. Certain things happen at the beginning. Certain things happen in the middle. Certain things happen at the end. There's a pattern to it, an intentionality, a discipline. That's where success comes in. And if you look at those groups, Weight Watchers is a great example. You look at the person who comes in, they're fired up, like, yeah, I'm going to write everything down. I'm going to do the thing, and then come to the meeting. And then, a year later, they haven't been successful. And it's like, what happens? Well, I ate too much. Well, why did you eat too much? Well, I had, junk in the house. Why did you have junk in the house? Well, I had junk in the house because I didn't do this other practice. I did this other practice. And it all goes down to like, I stopped tracking. Stopped being intentional. I started being accidental. It's so important. And intentionality is such a big deal. Now, there has to be some flexibility here. I talk about discipline with flexibility. We're not looking for rigidity. And for somebody like me, the way my psychology is set up, like doing the exact same thing every day is really, really hard. Some people love that. I have to have a little bit of variety, so I have to be creative in how I'm intentional about exercise and about food intake and about my daily work, because I get bored with stuff, right? So but I still have to do the things. So I have to be really creative about how I do it and when I do it, and to bring some variety into it, but still get the same intentional result. Again, think about the time and attention. What are you putting time and attention to? And I promise you, the things in your life where you're putting time and attention are getting better. Right? When you're focused on your health gets better. When you're focused on smoking, your health gets worse. Whatever. That's a bad example, but my brain went to another metaphor that I heard somewhere, and it's the story of the two wolves, and is the whole story behind it. But the short is, the question is, like the idea is like we all have two wolves inside us, and it's like, which wolf is going to survive? And it's like the good wolf or the bad wolf. And the answer is like the wolf that's going to survive is the wolf that we feed, right? What we pay attention to grows, and what we give time and energy to grows and expands and gets bigger. And if I'm giving time and attention to bad behaviors and unhealthy stuff and like toxic thinking and like bad relationships, that's all going to grow, right? If I give time and attention to meditation and exercise and doing good quality work and serving people and being value in the world, like whatever it looks like, right? Or I'm giving time and attention to my money and my budget, like those things will grow too, right? So it's not a matter of like you doing something right or wrong. It's really just a matter of like, where do you want to put your energy? What do you want to focus on? What do you want to grow and change and get better? Right? And then putting that energy and the time and the reps and the focus behind that thing, like that's all it takes. Like that's really all it takes to be successful. Again, you can define that however you want in a particular life domain. So yeah, I'm going to wrap this up. As you can tell, this isn't scripted. I'm just riffing here, talking about topics that I think are really important. This is one of my favorites. So I thought I would go with this, and I hope this is helpful to people. I want to challenge you to really think about like what's an area of my life that could use a little more intentionality. Lean into it, put some time and attention there. Let me know. Reach out to me. Got comments here. Let me know what's going on. Let me know what you're being intentional about. Be well.